Okay, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Hello, and let's start with some interesting and technical stuff. So let's talk about FastPath. So just to get my bearings, how much of you actually have tried to use FastPath? Okay, few hands. Who knows what fast track is? Little bit less hands. Okay, I'm here to correct that problem because it's really a problem. Basically, if you are not using FastPath and fast track, you are not allowing MikroTik routers to perform on the full potential. So, if we start talking about FastPath, we first need to talk about routers in general. And if we talk with the routers in general, we talk about lots of things that routers can do. And this is the packet flow diagram that I love very much. That indicates what routers can do. And this is simplified diagram. If you can go a little bit deeper into what happens in the routers, and you can go even deeper. So as you can see, there's lots of functionality, lots of facilities and everything. So basically, routers have an enormous set of features. So this is why, by default, your routers are running in slow path. So I call it slow path, so I can refer it in this presentation the quick way. So basically, it's the regular way the packets are processed in RouterOS. So basically, for each packet, RouterOS will check every and each facility that you saw in the diagram. And basically, here goes the performance. If you need to check all the features, if this packet needs to use one feature or this packet needs to use another feature, this is why you don't get wire speed, but you just get 300, 400 megs through our devices. But if you get a cheap TP-Link, it works on wire speed. But as we all know, there's only few things we can do with a TP-Link, but there's much more things that we can do with MikroTik routers. So the question is, can we make MikroTik router as fast as that other vendor, but still be available to use all the nice features? So, just to start things out, I will explain the basics of diagram so that we can talk on the same language from now on. So, if we are bridging some traffic, traffic is traveling in direction indicated by red line. So it looks very easy, but if we take a deeper look, there is 7 steps that packet needs to travel through to actually get through simple bridging. If we're talking about simple MPLS forwarding, then it goes to the middle box, and there's only 2 steps. You basically make an MPLS decision and switch label, and you go out. But then comes very interesting part, it's a routing part, which not only have 5 general steps that you can see here, but also a few other steps. So what we decided to implement when we started with version 6 is to make an initial FastPath implementation. So version 6 beta, version 6 RC, we started this. So basically, what is FastPath? Everyone is asking me that, and everyone has his own idea about what it is. FastPath is an interface driver extension. So it's an additional feature of the interface driver. Nothing more, nothing less. And this feature allows us to receive, process, or send traffic without any unnecessary processing. So what is unnecessary processing? For example, if you know for sure that you don't use IP security, there's no need to check each packet if there is IP security. If you don't use firewall, there's no need to use it for every packet and so on. So that's considered unnecessary processing. So this way, with this FastPath extension, a driver can now directly talk to the specific router-OS process and skip all other processes. So for this initial implementation, you needed interface driver support. You needed to be sure that FastPath is allowed in configuration. It's allowed by default. If you reset configuration, it's allowed. And by the way, now FastPath comes as a factory default enabled also. So, and for this initial implementation, no configurations in some specific facilities. So what about driver support? Basically, all the new products that comes out have support on all interfaces. 1100 have support from interface 1 to 11, so last two interfaces are not supported. RouterBot 600 series and RouterBot 800 have it on either 1 and either 2. And RB1000, 3011, and 2011 on all ports. And of course, all wireless interface have support if you use wireless CM2 or wireless rep, or if you still use wireless FP. Wireless FP is separate because if you received our update in 6.36, we will be discontinuing wireless FP package. So wireless CM2 and wireless rep will be the only ones remaining. So how to check if your FastPath is allowed? First of all, you need to go to IP settings or bridge settings and check that you have the checkbox, allow FastPath. And then you also can see if the FastPath is active based on counters. So if it counts something already, that means that it's already operational. And for purposes to adapt to this new FastPath way, we actually changed how the connection tracking works. Before it was just on and off. Now you can set auto, and if there is no need for connection tracking, it will be no, it will be disabled. But as soon as you enable one rule or create one rule, it will enable automatically. So basically, if we want to make a simple diagram what the FastPath is, it's very simple. We check all the red boxes if there's any configuration. If there are no configuration, FastPath just directly talks to the bridge decision, and that's it. Nothing else interested in, so bridge decision says to FastPath all it needs to know, packet is received, goes to FastPath and goes straight out, skipping all the other boxes. What about routing? The picture is exactly the same. We collect information, are there any rules or are there any configuration in pre-routing, and so on. So detailed look is like this. So if there's no configuration, then routing decision is the only thing that we are interested in. And FastPath will talk with the routing decision directly, skipping all the boxes on the next packets when they arrive. So just to show you impact of this first level of the FastPath, here is our table that we usually put out with all the products. So every time we release a product on routerbot.com, we have this table over here. So for example, on 750G revision 2, with 25 bridge rules, so you have a bridge configuration, that means that FastPath is disabled. You can get only 100, little bit more than 100,000 small packets per second. But as soon as you switch that off and enable, and FastPath becomes enabled, you get that 700, so more than 7 times increase in performance just in bridging because the FastPath took over. And if we go to our high-end product, CCR72 core, we actually got 190 million packet per second. So that's 61 gig of small packets in the FastPath mode. So that's simple FastPath, but there's different shades of FastPath, and the first one I want to talk about is half FastPath. Basic idea is very simple. Driver that have FastPath support can receive packet in FastPath. It can go through diagram in a FastPath mode, and if there is a point reached where you need to return back to slow path, it will happen automatically, there's no problem. So for example, if you have queues, interface queues, in the end of the packet's life cycle, packet will go all the way in the fast path, and on the last box, which is called interface HTB, it will slow down and go through it in a slow path way. But it doesn't work other way around. If packet is received in this slow path mode, it will never go the fast path way. So basically, it's all about receiving interfaces and what you can get from them. So that means that we needed to add some more interface support for FastPath. So we did. In 6.29, we added bridge interface FastPath support. That's for cases where you are routing from bridge to somewhere else. Not traffic through the bridge, but when the bridges interface the traffic going out from. Then, in 6.30, we added VLAN and VRRP, and also bonding for receive only. Unfortunately, for transmit, it's not possible, but at least for receive, we made it. In 6.33, we added Ethernet over IP and IP-IP interface support. Note that it's without IP security encryption and without fragmentation. I will get to that a little bit later. And just one day before I left to this mom, I managed to release the version with the PPP OE client interface support for FastPath. So it's just very, very fresh, and we just got some initial tests going on, but it was very promising. But again, without encryption and without fragmentation, this works. So basically, right now we can say that these two red lines that are indicated in this diagram also have FastPath support. So basically, this makes more or less whole diagram covered with the FastPath support. So let's go a little bit deeper in it. So what about these tunnels? We couldn't make the regular FastPath implementations for them because it might get very tricky explaining your administrator where the traffic went away if it just disappears when you enable FastPath. So we just added pair interface option, where when you create each tunnel, you can check allow FastPath setting, and traffic for this tunnel will go the FastPath way. So note that packet fragments and encrypted traffic can't be received in slow path, in FastPath. So that means that if you have 10 packets arriving, 9 of them aren't fragmented. They will go the FastPath way. And the 10th, which accidentally was fragmented, will have to go the slow way, all the way through the router. So, and these first 9 packets will be invisible to other router-less facilities, but that one, which were split, which were fragmented, will be visible just because it was fragmented. So it's very important when you use FastPath, you need to still think about what happens if this connection or this packet drops to slowdown. So you still need to have firewall rules that accept that traffic. You still need queues that handle that traffic and so on. So you can't just forget about FastPath traffic. Oh, it's going FastPath, goodbye. I will drop everything else. So no, that's not the way it works. So there's also some features that required FastPath support. So very first thing that we did, we found out that we have a problem. We didn't have the reliable way to test CCR performance when we released first devices. So we had to make our own traffic generator, and it had FastPath support since the very beginning. Mac Winbox and Mac Telnet, there was some issue that when you log in through the Mac Winbox, you disable FastPath on your router, so everything starts to go in a slow pathway. So that's fixed in 6.33 version. These features now support FastPath, so you can use them without slowing down your router. And there was one complaint that FastPath is a very good feature. My clients now can download 10 times more than before, but I cannot charge them because traffic flow doesn't count that traffic. So that you can charge your clients properly, we also added traffic flow support for FastPath. Now all the traffic is counted. And the most important change, I would say, since the announcement of the CCRs, I think is connection tracking, FastPath support. So FastPath plus connection tracking, basically we call it fast track. So connection tracking entries now have fast track flag. So basically it's implemented as action in a filter or mangle. You can fast track some specific connections, and basically all packets from these fast tracked connections are automatically allowed to go the FastPath way. This only works for IP version 4, UDP and TCP traffic. Note that traffic that traveling in a FastPath way, I'm repeating that already 3 times, and I will be repeating that 3 more times, will be invisible to other router facilities such as firewall and queues. So I will not exaggerate, but since the introduction of Fast Track, I have replied to at least 100 mails which was starting, why my queues doesn't work. Just because guys enabled Fast Track. So please note that. It's a configuration. If you enable it, you need to follow that you will give up some of the functionalities. So, and again note that some packets that, for example, are fragmented will go the regular path. Also, there will be some packets that will go regular path just because we need to refresh the timeouts in the connection tracking table, or refresh the ARP entry, and so on. So there will be still some packets that will go the slow pathway from these connections. It's not 100%. So don't forget to accept them in your firewalls and so on. So if you take a look at our connection tracking window since the version 6.29, you will see there's much more different and interesting columns that show you each connection speed, each connection's bytes in a slow path and fast path way. So basically what we did with this fast track, we allowed connection tracking to talk directly with our drivers. And that means that we can send traffic from one interface to another interface through FastPath, even if you use firewall and NAT. So default home configuration, you have a masquerade, so that's no problem for FastPath anymore. So you can use that. So here is a typical rule. Basically, this rule is very simple. Action, fast track connection, all connection state related, and established packets. So basically, in this firewall, I'm checking all the new connections, so all the connection state new packets. And if that survives my firewall, the next packet from this connection will be already fast-tracked. And all the remaining packets will go the fast-track way. So in this screenshot, you can see that I had only 240 megabytes of traffic in the rule captured, but my fast-track counter already indicates 15.1 gigabyte traffic. So instead of checking all 15.3 gigabyte of traffic through all the firewall, I just did it with 240 megs, getting exactly the same result, loading off the router and so on. But let's talk some figures. So router board 2011, configuration, default home IP, throughput that we managed to get through it before fast track, 358 megabits per second. CPU was 100%. And if you take a look what's eating up CPU, 44% was firewall. And then we changed and added fast track. So the same configuration, same router board. Now throughput is 890 megabits per second. You have 86% load, so there's still some space to go, and firewall is eating only 6% of the load. So more about faster connection action. It's very similar to mark connection. If you used Mangle at least once, it works exactly the same way. It doesn't do anything with the packet, but it changes something in connection tracking. So that's why it's usually the best idea to follow this rule by identical accept rule. So you just mark that, and then you accepted that so that it doesn't disappear somewhere in your firewall. So far I have seen 3 most common implementations. First, I already showed you, it's connection state established and related. Second one is when you fast-track some specific connections to avoid queues. For example, very popular among VoIP users. So you want to QoS all your traffic, but you want your VoIP to work all the time, every time with the full speed. So you fast-track your VoIP, and it doesn't stop on any facilities in RouterOS. It goes the FastPath way, and so on. So same goes for video streaming and such things. And last setups I have seen where guys have local servers on one Ethernet, local network on other, and internet on third. All the connections that going through local network are fast-tracked. All the connections that going out are checked, queued, or everything else in the slow pass mode. So you can use your imagination. Basically, you can make a specific fast-track implementation as firewall allows you. So, but as I told you, we already saw the problem, because suddenly some part of traffic just disappears from your facilities. And that's a nightmare for system administrator when you see that traffic is leaving your router, but you can't see that in the firewall. So that means that something is terribly wrong. So we tried to help. We made a special dummy rule. It appears in the beginning of firewall, but it's actually not a rule. It's just a visual representation of the rule. It's a counter. So it shows traffic that's traveling through the router in FastPath, so that when you open up your firewall, you are aware that there are some traffic that will not get to your firewall rules. This rule will show up as soon as you have at least one fast-track connection entry in your connection tracking, and will disappear only after last connection is timed out. So if you enable this rule, a dummy rule will appear. But if you disable fast-track connection rule, dummy rule will not disappear because there's still connections with the fast-track flag in the connection tracking table. So that's normal. We are thinking about dummy simple queue also, just to be sure that you don't forget that some of the traffic are not queued, but actually interesting was that we get very negative reaction to the dummy firewall rule, so we are still getting feedback. So please let me know if you like it or not, write to us so we can decide if we can continue creating those dummy rules, or we need to think other way how to show you how this FastPath traffic goes. So yeah, that's one of the things that we are thinking right now. So just before leaving, we managed to make a quick test. Sorry about the screenshot, it was really last-minute test. So we got a default configuration where internet's coming through the PPPoE client. And by default, we got 388 megabit download speed on this same 2011. And again, 53% of the load was on the firewall, but updated that to latest RC version. Now PPPoE client have FastPath support, so we went from 388 to 887 on PPPoE interface, which I think together with the PPP overhead would make wire speed on the Ethernet where that PPPoE is running on. So basically, now your 2011, if you have PPPoE connection at work, just enable fast track, and you can run full gigabit if your provider provides it. Next thing that we need to, or the last thing that we need to talk about, because it's a very last box in the packet flow diagram, is interface queues. So every interface have its own queue in RouterOS. And the only way to guarantee that the whole packet lifecycle will be in FastPath is if you use only hardware queue on your interfaces. But if you, for some reason, for example, on wireless interface, you don't have only hardware queue, you have wireless default, don't worry. It makes some 3–4% impact because it's very last box and doesn't really slow things down. But it's an interesting note just to check. OK, now I have 4 tasks just to check understanding of what I just explained. I will show you example, describe it, and then I will ask for each example, do you think this packet will travel through FastPath or no? So, first example. We have Ethernet 1 and Ethernet 2. So we have packet that travels in the router from IP1 tunnel that's on either 1 and leaves through either 2. Both either 1 and either 2 have FastPath support, and IP1 allowed FastPath setting is enabled. Also, IP forwarding FastPath is enabled. You have ICMP traffic, and you have a NAT. So who thinks that this packet will travel through the router in FastPath way? Please raise your hand. OK. Who thinks that it will not travel in the FastPath way? OK, and what are all the others thinking about? I got literally 5 hands, guys. So let's try again. So who thinks that it will go FastPath way? Please raise. OK. And now who thinks that it will not go the FastPath way? Second answer is correct. Reason, it's ICMP traffic. FastPath works only for TCP and UDP for IP version 4. OK. Next one. Packet is basically returning. Same setup, so packet is entering either 2 and then leaving through IP tunnel on either 1. Both interfaces have FastPath support. IP tunnel have FastPath enabled. FastPath forwarding is enabled. We have TCP FastPath connection, and we have a simple queue. So, who thinks that packets going FastPath way? Please raise your hand. Okay, who thinks that it's not? Okay, so the correct answer is it will go in FastPath way and will be invisible for simple queues. Next example. So we have a bridge, and Ethernet 2 receives the packet, hits a bridge port, and then packet leaves through PPPoE client interface on either one. Either one and either two have a FastPath support. IP forwarding is enabled, have FastPath allowed, and this is IP version 6 TCP connection. So who thinks that it will go FastPath way? Please raise your hand. Okay, who will think that it will not? Correct. And why? Yes, unfortunately, at this point in time, we don't have IP version 6 support, so it's only for IP version 4. And last example. So we have exactly the same setup, but now packet travel other way around. So it is received by PPPoE. It goes to the bridge and out with a port either 2. So again, both ports have FastPath support. IP forwarding is enabled in FastPath mode, and we have fast-tracked TCP connection. So who thinks that this will work? Thank you. That's the correct answer. So, bottom line, FastPath is nothing more than feature that allows you to reduce your CPU load in specific configurations. It's not the world savior. It will not help you 100% in any way. But there are specific configurations that will benefit greatly with the FastPath and if it's handled properly. So what are you doing? You are basically trading some RouterOS functionalities for some performance. So next major thing is packet fragments can't use FastPath. Avoid them at any cost. Reduce the MTU sizes, reduce the MSS sizes, do anything. Just avoid getting fragments. So, and the main thing is you need interface driver support to run FastPath and get all these nice features. If you don't have a driver support, you don't have FastPath, you don't have fast track, you don't have tunnel support, and so on. So you need hardware driver support. Unfortunately, that means that this only works on MikroTik equipment. x86 drivers doesn't have this support and probably will never have, because there are too many of those, and we are not going to jump and change all the drivers because we might need to upgrade them at some point in time. So this feature is restricted to MikroTik devices. Okay, so if I have somebody from MikroTik with other microphone, it's time for questions. One moment. Can somebody signal to the registration table that I need assistance? So again, just to make sure who had the questions. Okay, and then Sergey. So everyone says big thanks to Sergey for helping us.
Hello. So my first question would be, what happens if you add an Ethernet, let's say you add Ether 2 as a slave for Ether 1, and then you do FastPath. Will that packet use FastPath, or will it be half FastPath because of the fact that it will hit the switch CPU twice?
On MikroTik router devices,
Yes.
it will go all the way FastPath. Because all the switch interfaces, if you switch two interfaces together, then master interface will be considered as in interface, and if master interface have FastPath support, it will go FastPath.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Any questions? Iedošit.
I have a question with regard to the hardware support, because you showed a number of devices, but for instance, the router board 450 wasn't there. Why is there a distinction in router board equipment that is and isn't supported?
So basically, we need to write support for each driver individually. As 400 series is already well established and quite, let's say, not old, but version with experience, we haven't got to that one yet. I'm not saying that we will, but all the new products that come out will have for sure. From the recent products that don't have FastPath support, the only one that comes in mind is 850G X2. Unfortunately, we had to choose either IP security acceleration or FastPath. For that device, we chose IP security acceleration. So that's why FastPath was not implemented on that device. Okay?
Hello. My question is, how about delay? So latency with FastPath without. Thank you.
That's basically major plus. That is the major plus of FastPath, because even if you don't hit 100% CPU, you will reduce the latency of packets traveling through the device if they travel in FastPath. So it's very good for VoIP and video streaming and such things. So yes, great improvement.
Any number that you can establish in percentage or something?
Sorry, I haven't made such tests, but basically we saw significant improvements. Anyone else?
What about fast track with MPLS and connection tracking?
MPLS had the fast track since very beginning. Okay. So the only thing that's missing in fast track is VPLS support. But MPLS itself is fast tracked since the beginning, since the invention of MPLS, it was in the fast track mode. Okay? I can't see any more hands. Okay, thank you very much.